On July 1st, 2000, the quiet village of Angmering in West Sussex, England, became the backdrop for one of the most tragic and harrowing stories in British history. 8-year-old Sarah Payne, a bright and lively girl, was abducted while playing in the fields, leading to a nationwide outcry and profound changes in child safety laws. This video delves into the details of Sarah's abduction, the extensive investigation that followed, the trial of her killer, and the big impact of her story on society. On the evening of July 1st, 2000, the village of Angmering, a picturesque community in West Sussex, was alive with the sounds of summer. Children played outside, laughter mingling with the gentle rustle of trees and the distant chatter of neighbors. The Payne family, known for their warmth and closeness, was part of this vibrant community. 8-year-old Sarah Payne was particularly spirited, often seen with her siblings, engaging in various outdoor games that filled their neighborhood with joy. That evening, the Payne household was buzzing with life. Sarah, her brother, and her sister had been playing outside for most of the day. Linda Payne, Sarah's mother, had been vigilant yet relaxed, believing in the safety of her village. The kids enjoyed their freedom, running through the fields adjacent to their home, where they frequently played. As twilight descended, the golden hues of the setting sun cast a warm glow over the fields. At approximately 8:30 p.m., Linda noticed that Sarah was not playing with her siblings anymore. This was unusual. Sarah was always near her siblings or within sight. Linda initially assumed that Sarah might have gone to check in with their neighbor or was playing a game of hide and seek. When Sarah failed to respond to her mother's calls, a gnawing sense of unease settled in. Linda ventured outside, calling Sarah's name into the cooling evening air. She called again and again, her voice tinged with worry as she scanned the field. The playful sounds of children faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. Linda's heart raced as she realized that Sarah was nowhere to be found. Panic set in quickly. Linda gathered her other children and began searching the immediate area, looking behind bushes and checking in the garden shed. They shouted Sarah's name, but there was no answer. As moments turned into minutes, Linda felt a sinking dread. It was now clear that Sarah was missing. Deciding to take action, Linda called the police. The urgency in her voice conveyed the severity of the situation. Officers arrived shortly after, treating the situation with the seriousness it warranted. They began to ask questions, gathering details about Sarah, her clothing, and the last known activities. Linda described Sarah as a bright, cheerful girl, wearing a pink top and blue shorts that evening. The police organized a search party, quickly mobilizing local resources. Officers combed the fields, shouting Sarah's name, while others began questioning neighbors and checking for any potential sightings. The community was soon alerted to the situation, and a sense of collective anxiety began to spread. As word spread, the community of Angmering rallied together. Friends, neighbors, and strangers alike joined the search efforts. They brought flashlights, lanterns, and even food and drinks for the weary searchers. The sense of urgency brought people together, united by the shared goal of finding Sarah. Local schools and community groups organized search parties. Volunteers spread out in all directions, searching gardens, parks, and woodlands. Flyers were printed with Sarah's photograph, and within hours they were plastered on walls, lampposts, and community boards throughout the village. The phrase, "Have you seen Sarah?" became a rallying cry for the community as they hoped against hope for her safe return. As the night progressed, a palpable sense of tension hung in the air. The usual sounds of evening, chirping crickets, rustling leaves, felt hauntingly absent, replaced by the worried murmurs of those searching for Sarah. The local police began to set up a command center to coordinate efforts, and search dogs were brought in to help. As news of Sarah's disappearance spread, local news outlets began covering the story. broadcasting appeals from her family and the police. Linda's heartfelt pleas for her daughter's safe return resonated deeply with viewers. The images of Sarah, her bright smile, innocent eyes, were splashed across television screens and newspapers, evoking sympathy and prompting widespread concern. Public interest grew rapidly, with many people in the region feeling a personal connection to the tragedy. Social media platforms began buzzing with posts about Sarah, using the hashtag #FindSarah, amplifying the search efforts. Community members shared tips, advice, and moral support, creating a digital tapestry of hope and determination. As the hours turned into a long night, the reality of the situation began to weigh heavily on the Payne family and the community. Search efforts continued throughout the night, but as dawn approached, fatigue and worry set in. The police maintained a strong presence, reassuring the Payne family that they were doing everything possible to find Sarah. Linda and her family faced the unimaginable, a reality that no parent should ever have to endure. Friends and family provided emotional support, but nothing could ease the deep-seated fear that gripped Linda's heart. What had happened to her daughter? Where could she be? The psychological impact of the search weighed heavily on everyone involved. For Linda, each passing minute without news felt like an eternity. The anxiety turned into an emotional roller coaster. Hope mingled with fear, optimism overshadowed by despair. She clung to the hope that her daughter would be found safe and sound. But as the night wore on, the lack of answers deepened her anguish. Community members who had once laughed and played together now found themselves united in grief and worry. Parents began to hold their children a little tighter, whispering words of love and caution. Conversations shifted towards safety, awareness, and the vulnerabilities children face in their daily lives. The day of Sarah Payne's disappearance marked a profound turning point, not only for her family, but also for the entire Angmering community. What started as a joyful summer day transformed into a nightmare, and the events of that evening would resonate through the years. The search for Sarah became a focal point of collective grief, action, and solidarity as a community came together in a desperate bid to find a missing child. As the sun rose on July 2nd, 2000, the hope for Sarah's safe return still lingered, but the reality of the situation began to take a more ominous turn. The investigation would soon escalate, leading to a tragic discovery that would change lives forever. The response to Sarah's disappearance was overwhelming. Law enforcement agencies mobilized quickly, deploying a vast array of resources. Helicopters circled the area, search dogs were brought in, and hundreds of volunteers joined the effort to find Sarah. The local community came together, motivated by hope and a shared determination to locate the missing girl. Local news outlets covered the story extensively, broadcasting appeals from Sarah's family and the police. Flyers bearing Sarah's image were distributed throughout the village and surrounding areas, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. The emotional weight of the situation gripped not only Angmering, but the entire nation, which was captivated by the story of a missing child. As the search extended into days, community members organized search parties, combing through fields, woodlands, and even abandoned buildings. The police set up a command center, coordinating the efforts of volunteers and local law enforcement. Despite the collective effort, there was no sign of Sarah. Each passing day brought with it a heavy sense of despair and uncertainty. After 16 agonizing days, the search came to a tragic conclusion. On July 17, 2000, Sarah's lifeless body was discovered in a field near Pulborough, about 15 miles from her home. The news of her discovery sent shockwaves through the community and the nation. For the Payne family, the nightmare had become a heartbreaking reality. The circumstances surrounding Sarah's death were devastating. Forensic teams quickly arrived at the scene to collect evidence, but the pain for her family was immeasurable. The community grieved deeply, holding vigils and memorials to honor Sarah's memory. Flowers, toys, and messages of love were left at the site where she was found, as people sought to process the tragedy and offer support to the grieving family. With the discovery of Sarah's body, the investigation shifted into high gear. Detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading to her death. They reviewed witness statements, examined the timeline of Sarah's last known movements, and began compiling a list of potential suspects. Among these individuals was Roy Whiting, a 41-year-old man with a troubling criminal history. Whiting had previously been convicted of abducting and assaulting young girls, and at the time of Sarah's disappearance, he was living in the area. His record raised immediate suspicions, and the police began to focus their investigation on him. They delved into his background, seeking to uncover any connections between him and Sarah. As the investigation progressed, crucial forensic evidence began to emerge. Forensic scientists conducted DNA tests on the samples collected from Sarah's body. The results were damning. They matched Whiting's profile. This evidence provided a critical link between him and the crime. In addition to the DNA evidence, police sought eyewitness accounts to build their case. Several witnesses reported seeing a car matching the description of Whiting's vehicle in the area around the time of Sarah's abduction. The investigation team worked tirelessly to corroborate these testimonies and establish a clear timeline of events. As detectives pieced together the puzzle, they discovered that Whiting had a history of predatory behavior. He was known for using his car to gain the trust of children, often luring them under false pretenses. This behavior pattern became a key aspect of the investigation, as police sought to understand the motive behind his actions and how they related to Sarah's abduction. On July 21st, 2000, just days after Sarah's body was discovered, Roy Whiting was arrested. His apprehension marked a significant turning point in the investigation. News of his arrest spread quickly, igniting public outrage and increasing scrutiny of the legal system's handling of sex offenders. Many questioned how a convicted individual like Whiting had been allowed to live in close proximity to children without adequate monitoring. During police interviews, Whiting maintained his innocence. He presented a facade of calmness, but investigators were determined to uncover the truth. The mounting evidence against him painted a starkly different picture. The police carefully reviewed his alibis and statements, revealing inconsistencies that further implicated him in the crime. As public interest in the case grew, the media closely followed the developments. Whiting's arrest sparked discussions about child safety, the effectiveness of rehabilitation programs for sex offenders, and the measures in place to protect children from potential predators. By the time the trial began in November 2001, the nation was riveted by the details of the case. The courtroom was filled with emotion as Sarah's family attended, their grief evident as they listened to the harrowing testimonies. The prosecution presented a strong case, emphasizing the forensic evidence, witness statements, and Whiting's criminal history. Prosecutors painted a clear picture of a predatory individual who had targeted a vulnerable child. They detailed the timeline of events leading to Sarah's abduction, presenting evidence that linked Whiting directly to the crime. The emotional weight of the case resonated deeply with the jurors and the public alike. The defense, however, sought to cast doubt on the evidence. They argued that the DNA evidence was circumstantial and questioned the reliability of witness testimonies. They attempted to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors, but the prosecution's case remained compelling. After several days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On November 21, 2001, Roy Whiting was found guilty of murder and abduction. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, emphasizing the severity of his crimes and the need to protect children from individuals like him. For Sarah's family, this verdict brought a measure of justice, but the pain of their loss would never fully fade. The case of Sarah Payne had a profound impact on child protection laws in the UK. The public outrage over the handling of sex offenders intensified, leading to calls for stricter laws and better monitoring. The tragedy highlighted significant gaps in the system, prompting discussions about the effectiveness of existing laws regarding the rehabilitation and supervision of sex offenders. In 2005, the Sarah Payne Trust was established, dedicated to promoting child safety and raising awareness about child abduction and abuse. The Trust focused on education, community involvement, and advocacy for stronger legislation. One of the key initiatives was the launch of Sarah's Law, which aimed to empower parents to request information about individuals with criminal records who might pose a risk to children in their area. Following the tragic abduction and murder of their daughter Sarah in 2000, her parents, particularly her mother Sarah Payne, became dedicated advocates for child safety and awareness. Sarah turned her grief into a powerful force for change. Through her advocacy, Sarah has not only honored Sarah's memory, but has also raised critical awareness about the vulnerabilities faced by children. She often speaks about the profound emotional impact of such tragedies on families, emphasizing the importance of community support and resilience in healing. The Payne family's journey highlights the necessity of proactive measures in protecting children, inspiring many to join the fight for safer environments for all kids. The legacy of Sarah Payne endures as her story continues to resonate with families and advocates across the UK. Annual memorials and events commemorate her life, ensuring that her memory lives on and that her tragic death serves as a catalyst for change. In the wake of Sarah's death, numerous organizations and community groups emerged, dedicated to ensuring the safety of children. Parents, educators, and advocates joined forces to promote awareness about child abduction, highlighting the importance of teaching children about safety and empowering them to recognize and report dangerous situations. The Sarah Payne Trust has been instrumental in supporting initiatives that educate children and parents about personal safety. Workshops, community events, and online resources have been developed to equip families with the tools needed to protect children from potential threats. These efforts emphasize the importance of open communication between parents and children about safety and trust. In schools, educational programs have been implemented to teach children about the importance of staying safe, recognizing inappropriate behavior, and understanding the concept of stranger danger. These initiatives aim to empower children, giving them the knowledge and confidence to protect themselves in potentially dangerous situations.